please stand for the national anthem of Barbados? You may take your seats. Ms. Karen B. Sullivan, Deputy Chief of Mission, U.S. Mission to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. Ms. Roseanne Richards, Director of the Child Care Board, Barbados. Ms. Faith Marshall Harris, Chair of the Barbados National Committee on Child Rights. Mr. Peter Bull, UNICEF Representative for the Eastern Caribbean Area. Ms. Tawny Broadber, Representative, UN Women Multi-Country Office for the Caribbean. Members of the media, specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to UN House and wish all of you a happy International Day of the Girl. Now, today we're celebrating girls, so we need a bit more energy than that. Happy International Day of the Girl. We're getting there. I'm Farhana Bulbulia, and I will be your MC for today's event. This year's theme, Girls' Vision for the Future, conveys both the urgent action and persistent hope driven by the power of girls' voices and vision for the future. We need urgent action, and we need persistent hope. Today's event is a collaborative effort between UNICEF Eastern Caribbean Area Office, UN Women's Multi-Country Office for the Caribbean, and the U.S. Mission for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. We have brought together activists and advocates from across the Eastern Caribbean for a powerful discussion, exploring the critical socio-cultural and economic issues affecting girls, while providing an opportunity to reinforce the call for the prioritization of girls' rights. Throughout today's discussion, we encourage each of you in the room and online to listen intently, think critically, and engage meaningfully in all that we discuss. Think, speak, and use our voices to continue the conversation beyond this room. Now, without further ado, I would like to invite Ms. Tawny Broadber to make remarks to open today's session. Tawny.
Thank you very much. And I want to say thank you to our chairwoman of events for the rousing energy that we need to bring to this conversation. Ms. Karen Sullivan, Deputy Chief of Mission for the U.S. Mission to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. Ms. Roseanne Richards, Director of the Child Care Board of Barbados. My colleague and friend, Mr. Peter Boult, the UNICEF representative for the Eastern Caribbean. Thank you so much for partnering and inviting us to partner on the International Day of the Girl Child. Members of the media, especially invited guests, boys and girls. I don't know if you're calling yourself girls now, young ladies, it seems more like. In the room, good morning. Good morning. All right. So I wanted to start my remarks this morning and open with something that really scared me a bit, but inspired me when I was a girl. And it's a quote from Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. And it says, "I have come to the frightening conclusion that I am the decisive element. It is my personal approach that creates the climate. I possess tremendous power to make life miserable or joyous. I can humiliate, humor, hurt, or heal. And in all situations, it is my response that decides whether a crisis is escalated or de-escalated, and a human is humanized or dehumanized. If we treat people as they are, we make them worse. If we treat people as they ought to be, we help them become what they are capable of becoming." What are you capable of becoming? What is your vision for the future? And that is the theme of today's event. Now, it's fantastic to see young men in this room as well, because we are focusing on the girl child, and many of you are the product of girl children who became women. Maybe many of you may have girl children later in your life. Many of you may fall in love with women who were girls. This is not a story and a day that ignores you. It's a day that focuses on girl children and your support of girl children as well. Do you believe that you belong? The reason we want to know what girls' vision of the future really is because we want to know where you see yourself in that future. What is the now? Do you know where girls belong in decision making? Of course, there's a woman parliament in Barbados, a woman head of government and a woman head of state, and many women in parliament. But it will take a staggering 137 years to lift all women and girls out of poverty. And about 1 in 4 girls continue to be married as children. So, what is your vision for the future? 30 years ago, I'm aging myself, I was a girl. And there was a meeting in Beijing. And from that meeting, 189 countries decided what the future should look like for girls, women, boys, and men. And I invite you to read a bit more about the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. There's some people in this room who were there from Barbados to determine that future for all of us. It promised an end to discrimination against girls and negative attitudes and stereotypes that hold them back from education and opportunities. Now, that was 30 years ago. Today, unfortunately, while we have made significant progress, I still see many girls struggling with the opportunities to claim an education for themselves in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. And some of that struggle may not only be external, but it lies within many of you girls who don't see the space for yourself at the table. Shirley Chisholm came from Barbados. She was the first woman to run for the President of the United States of America. What does that mean for what you can do? When you listen to the national anthem of Barbados, it speaks about writing a name on history's page for the future, because the expectations are great. You must see yourself in that future. So that's why we ask you, what is your vision of the future? 30 years from now, if I'm still here, I don't want to see any of you making this speech talking about the fact that it would take another 137 years for poverty to end for most women and girls. So there's power and privilege in growing older. I'm going to encourage you to not only share your vision, but keep asking why the reality is the way it is now. Now, I started with a man's quote because there's space for all of us here, and I'm going to end with another great man's quote. Everyone has the power for greatness. You live in an Instagram, actually, I'm aging myself by saying Instagram. You live in a TikTok kind of era. Everyone has the power for greatness, not for fame, because fame can be empty, but for greatness, because greatness is determined by service. And your service is determined by your vision for yourself, your community, and the world. So let's get this party started to a certain extent. I'm really eager to hear about what your vision is for your future. Thank you.
Thank you, Tawny, for setting the tone for today's discussion. And oftentimes we come to discussions like these and wonder, is it really going to make a difference? I want to share with you a very short story. About 18 years ago, I was in secondary school, just like you, wearing a uniform just like you, and I wanted to be a cricketer. That was my vision, that was my dream. I went to cricket practice for the first time. It was only boys, all boys. And after that first session, the coach came to me and he told me, you know, Farhana, I like your interests, but I really don't feel comfortable with you playing with the boys, so I think it's better if you don't come back. And at that point in time, being a 12-year-old girl, not yet finding my voice, I didn't go back. However, recently I turned 30 and I told myself, I want to create a vision for my future. My future is still there. So I started going back cricket because I found a girls' team. And now I play every weekend with about 50 young girls that look just like you. So these conversations are important. Now, I'd like to introduce a man who I've come to know in my last year at UNICEF, who is committed to making sure that every vision for every boy and girl becomes a reality. Mr. Peter Bull, representative of the UNICEF Office for the Eastern Caribbean.
Well, thank you, Farhana. That story reminds me of my own girl. I have a 7-year-old girl, and she loves playing soccer. And the first time she went to soccer practice in Barbados 2 years ago, only boys. But thankfully, the coach didn't say, like, you're not in the right place here. So we have moved forward, I think. The coach took it on, and she took it on. And 2 years later, she's still the only girl, and still playing soccer with the boys, and beating most of them. So I think there is hope, there's progression. So, but thanks for that story. Good morning, friends, everybody here in the room, online. I'm not going to repeat the protocol. I think we've been saying and thanking everybody, including Faith Marcia Harris, the president of the Convention of the Committee on the Child's the Rights here in Barbados, and also the Caribbean representative on the International Committee of the Rights of the Child. Also to welcome, and Karen as well with us from USAID Online. So good morning. I'm really happy to be here on this very special day for all of us. And we're celebrating girls on this special day, as we should every day. And I'm really honored to be here on this particular day, a day where we reflect how far we have come in securing girls' rights and aspirations. Being the head of UNICEF, I'm really privileged to see you as young women growing in confidence, asserting your opinions, and claiming your rights, and looking to the future as leaders who are both forthright and formidable. Exploring your vision for that future is the theme of this year's Day of the Girl. And the outlook is encouraging, as Tony already showed us. According to recent global research from UNICEF, you are envisioning the days ahead with confidence and optimism. The majority of adolescent girls, 80% or more, believe life will get better in the next few years. You see a brighter world, and you're reaching for it. And as I already referred to my own girl, I'm happy to hear that and see that, especially in a world where we see a lot of negativity these days. That hope is what keeps us going forward and keeping moving forward. We have made great strides in the Caribbean in terms of gender equality and girls' leadership. In fact, in many areas, girls are already surpassing boys. For example, young women graduating from University of the West Indies outnumber young men. And the 2022 ILO report said that the Caribbean leads the world in terms of women managers. And that is impressive, of course. But as we all know, and we were reminded by the earlier speakers, this doesn't reflect the full story. In the U Report poll we conducted in Barbados and the OECS in 2023, girls told us that they were disproportionately affected by sexual abuse and were much more likely than boys to be subjected to forced sex, unwanted touching, and online sexual harassment. We need to protect all girls everywhere against this and all other forms of violence and abuse. Some 45 million girls and women in Latin America and the Caribbean report having been affected by sexual violence before the age of 18. Survivors of such violence face increased risk in adulthood, including substance abuse, anxiety, and depression. Humanitarian crises to which this region is alarmingly prone have disproportionately affected girls and have unique needs during such crises. Girls displaced by emergencies are more likely to face child protection concerns, such as what I referred to earlier, sexual predation. Personal hygiene issues, including the lack of access to menstrual products, can also affect their quality of life. Even as we know that girls are achieving more academically, we still need to address the imbalance in boys and girls in taking science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM subjects. Proficiency in these areas will be critical in a new technology-driven world. Unfortunately, across Latin America and the Caribbean, less than 30% of graduates in these fields are female. A gender pay gap also exists, with women still earning less than their male counterparts. Barbados is doing a bit better than other countries, with the World Economic Forum finding that women earn 80% of what men earn here for the same positions. Better, yes, but clearly not good enough. Who best knows how we can tackle these challenges and ensure that girls can step into that exciting future? Who can tell us what is needed to effect meaningful change? It is you, the girls. And we must listen to you as the current and future leaders and change agents that you are. Adopting a girl-centered approach in putting you at the very heart of the design and implementation of policies, programs, and activities. We must support your participation and leadership at community, national, regional, and global levels. We must scale up funding to promote girls' rights and well-being as we accelerate action towards sustainable development goals. We must protect your rights to inclusive education, economic empowerment, good nutrition, and good health, including sexual and reproductive health. You must be allowed to claim the space you need and to live the life you want. I'm very much looking forward to today's discussion and hearing your views for the coming years as young women on the cusp of tomorrow. And yes, I know there are boys here too, as Tony reminded us and as I can see. And boys have their own challenges. We haven't forgotten you. UNICEF promotes the rights of all children, boys and girls everywhere. And of course, boys play a key role when it comes to achieving gender equality. Today, though, is for the girls. So we listen, we learn, and will strive to help them achieve the future they so richly deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter, for those moving words. We'll now turn our attention online. Ms. Karen Sullivan, U.S. Deputy Chief of Mission, U.S. Mission to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, will make her remarks virtually.
Thank you, Farhana. I hope everyone can hear me. Good morning from Great. So good morning, everyone. I apologize for not being there in person because I really wanted to meet all of you. I am currently in Saint Vincent on an official visit, and I'm very excited to still be able to participate. So thank you to UNICEF for making that happen. To me, International Day of the Girl is incredibly important for some personal reasons, as well as the reasons that both Peter and Tani have already mentioned, as well as for Hannah, is I have been fortunate to have a lot of wonderful support in my life to get me to the level of success that I've had both personally and professionally. I want to see others have that as well. And I know that not everyone is as fortunate as I was to have that pathway. So I think what we do today as a group, and what we talk about is how do we ensure that all girls have the support they need to meet their maximum potential, which I know is absolutely limitless. I was really fortunate that my family was incredibly supportive. I had an incredible family of strong women and men who recognized that strength and didn't try to change them. I'm lucky that I married a man who has a life partner and who supports everything that I do. And so for me, I recognize that, but I recognize that for many people, there are a lot of challenges to, especially young women and young men. I know that you're in the room too, that it's hard for you to get to where you want to go. You don't have the support you need. You don't have people telling you that you can work around obstacles that are in your way, or help you figure out how to get where you want to be in your life, and whether that's personal or professional. I think as much as I had struggles and things, I felt the strength of those folks behind me to ensure I could make my way through, that I could get to where I wanted to get, that I wasn't afraid to question when people told me no. And that I was able to, when something didn't work, was able to figure out a solution to move around it. That's really hard, I know, for a lot of folks. And so I think today we can hopefully recognize that we need to do more to help young women and young men find their way in the world and give them the support they need. So how do we do that? Here in the Caribbean, I've spent several months talking with folks about, how do we help the youth of today to get to become the responsible and incredible human being adults of the future. I think there's a lot of different things we can do. I think the first place we need to look is within the communities. How do we support communities? How do we support parents? I keep hearing that quite a bit here in Saint Vincent and in Barbados and other places. Parents need help too, because a lot of our parents are young. They become parents unexpectedly. They may not have a partner to help them or family to help them. So how do we help them? In addition, how do we help young women, search and explore opportunities in places where they may not feel they can? Places like STEM, the arts, sports, things that are not traditionally girl things. At least they didn't used to be. So how do we help women explore those opportunities? We need to allow them to grow out of traditional roles, and we need to give them places where they can do that. Safe spaces. Places like community centers and churches and schools are all good places. We just need to help them create programs that can really support girls. I think I agree with both Peter and Tani that education is so important, and continuing to allow people to have access to education at all levels, whether it's going on to get a graduate degree or going to a technical college and learning a skill. People who have marketable skills, they can take care of themselves and they can be productive and successful. We just need to allow them to go through those paths. I also think it's important to, that we have programs that support young women who want to be our next generation of women leaders. We see so many great examples in the world. How did those women get there? Well, they had opportunities, and we need to make sure that people are allowing them to explore those skills and learn them. I agree also too, we do need to protect young women from violence and gender, and especially from those they know and those they don't know. I just spent a week here in Saint Vincent, and I saw sort of both sides of the coin. I saw programs here that are trying to get young women more involved in STEM, more involved in agriculture, making agriculture more accessible to women. And watching them learning about food security and food sciences, and I thought that was amazing. But I also heard stories about increases in gender-based violence and the lack of support for that. So we need to be aware of, just as we are supporting women's positive opportunities, that we're reducing the negative opportunities. The one thing I did hear in all of these stories too was hope. I spent yesterday on Union Island, which was one of the islands that was devastated by Hurricane Beryl just 90 days ago. And the progress that they've made there is incredible, but they have a long way to go. And women are an incredibly important part of that. These women on that island are struggling. They're trying to fix their homes. They're trying to restart businesses. They're trying to feed themselves and take care of their families. Young girls are going back to school, but not sure how they're going to be able to continue their studies because it's so chaotic. Well, one thing they all told me was more than anything, they have hope. That's what's keeping them going. And I think we need to continue to live with hope that we can make the world a better place for young women and young men. So I will just close with saying that I think we all have a lot to give here. I think UNICEF, UN Women, and all the other organizations, including the U.S. government, we want to do our best to support all of you and make sure that you have the opportunities to move forward and reach your potential. And again, some of this is just starting small, just working with communities and making sure that they have what they need to take care of the young women and young men that they are living with each day. So with that, I will close and say thank you very much. I look forward to hearing some of the discussion, and I hope that next time I'll be able to join you in person.
Thank you, Karen, and you're indeed right. It takes a village and a supportive people and communities to really make change happen. Someone who knows this well is Ms. Roseanne Richards, Director of the Child Care Board, and I now invite her to make her remarks.
Ms. Karen Sullivan, Deputy Chief of Mission, U.S. Missions of Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Mrs. Faith Marshall Harris, Chair of the Barbados National Committee on the Rights of the Child, Mr. Peter Bull, UNICEF Representative for Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, Ms. Tony Broadburr, Representative of UN Women Multi-Country Office, Caribbean, media, specially invited guests, students, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. First of all, I want to wish you, the girls, a very happy International Day of the Girl on behalf of myself, the Minister, the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, and all my staff at the Child Care Board. Under this year's theme, Girls' Vision for the Future, this observation celebrates girls everywhere globally. For all parents, institutions, entities, and all those who care about girls, this day belongs to us. On this day, the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs and the Child Care Board, the State Sole Child Protection Agency, along with other key known stakeholders, must come together and advocate for our girls and their rights. In Barbados, girls are provided with opportunities for a place and a space in our educational institutions, from nursery to primary and secondary and to tertiary. So our girls enjoy the right to education. Our girls also enjoy the right to good health, another key pillar which ensures their potential for development. Our girls enjoy adequate nutrition as well, even though there are some challenges with the sweeter stuff. However, apart from the rights to education, health, and nutrition, there are some areas of concern with respect to our girls. Girls in Barbados are still experiencing abuse of all forms, which includes emotional, physical, sexual, or neglect. The child abuse statistics reflect the danger of some of our preteen and adolescent girls and what they experience, particularly sexually and physically. They are still challenged by becoming pregnant throughout their teen years, and this is not a new phenomenon, but something that must be worked on continuously so that it can be reduced. The Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, through the work done by that ministry, as well as the support of the Child Care Board, has been able to pass into law the child protection legislation to protect our girls and our boys. This legislation also makes provision for a secure treatment facility to provide psychosocial support for our children in care who are in need of such support. This new legislation and the establishment of the secure treatment facility aligns with this year's theme, Girls' Vision for the Future. It is indicative of my ministries and my agencies' action to ensure that girls in state care and in our country are provided with the tools, education, health, adequate nutrition, and psychosocial support that give them that hope for a brighter future. What is critical to this theme being exemplified and realized is the opportunity, the safe space, and the right support, including that of families and communities, to ensure that our girls become involved and readily accept and undertake their place as future leaders. I thank you.
Thank you, Roseanne, and to all of you who made remarks. We'll now move on to the second segment of today's event, and we're going to commence it with a spoken word piece straight out of Antigua and Barbuda by Miss Emia Jennings. We'll turn our attention to the screen.
Ooh, child, things are gonna get easier. Things will get brighter. But that's not today. And I know you expect me to say that I feel like I am a priority, that first and foremost is my safety. So between domestic and political adult egos making decisions for us just to see where it goes after the ink dries and all the smile photo ops, sometimes I really do think you forget about us. I mean, it's 2024 and I still don't know all my rights. But I should, because I have access to the convention, right? I should speak truthfully and for my right, but only when spoken to, right? I can't express my opinion or stick up for myself cause I'm rude, right? Even if I was rude. The things some adults do, like making me to a teacher apologize because he bit me for disobeying. But he was right? And I don't want to embarrass my parents, right? So no reporting what they, the pastor, teacher, politician, adult did, right? In 2024, I'm still told children should be seen and not heard. But what's the point of speaking up and out when no one is listening, or worse, I'm punished for the spoken word? I love everything about the convention. It speaks to my right to an education and protection. I love the fact that it talks about my safety and dignity, even though some of you still ignore period poverty. But you, tick, tick, tock, tick, tick, tock, tick, tick, tock, are running out of time. Or maybe it's just about time that we reintroduce, reproduce, and make it #1 on the news. Hear ye, read all about it. The Convention on the Rights of a Child is more than words on a paper. It's something that has actually been applied. I want to get everything because you said I have that right. I want to walk without fear and dream as big as I dare because you said I have that right. I want to grow into an adult educating children on their rights because that is right. So after 35 years, I say thank you to those of you who have remained true in educating us on our rights, for being our voice in those fights, for remembering us, empowering us, and making the world a little more just, at least for some of us. So let me remind you with just this little spoken word. I am a child, but I have the right to be seen and heard.
That was powerful, right? Right. We're now going to move into our panel discussion. And it gives me great honor to introduce our moderator and panelists for today. Our moderator, Ms. Karina Blash, is an aspiring attorney at law and experienced debater from Grenada. Karina's superpower is her sharp and creative mind. In her free time, she loves chatting about educational reform, and opportunities for youth. You know, nothing too heavy, right, Karina? She will be joined by 3 panelists. Ms. Adia Daniel, a Vincentian mental health advocate pursuing her college degree in law, biology, and chemistry. Adia's dedication to social change runs deep, and she has her sights on becoming the first female Prime Minister of Saint Vincent and the Grenadines. Therefore, it comes as no surprise that her favorite conversation starter is politics. Ms. Diarra Bess is a visionary leader. As president of the Barbados National Student Council, Diarra's journey in student leadership began during her primary school days, where she served as deputy head girl and has been marked by her efforts to create inclusive school environments. Her superpower is being a great friend and an amazing baker. Diarra, we need to chat. Ms. Kanisha Chase is a gender equality advocate with a keen interest in international relations and social policy. As a child, Kanisha was inspired by the girls she read about in books and watched on TV, who changed the world just by being themselves. Her hope is to use her voice and work to inspire girls in the same way. And you're doing just that, Kanisha. To each of you, I welcome you onto the stage.
All right, good morning, everyone. And thank you for Hannah for that lovely introduction. So I would just like to add to the persons before me in wishing everyone an happy International Day of the Girl Child. So this morning, we are here to discuss girls' vision for the future, and we have a lot in store. So I won't do much talking for now, and we'll just get right into the discussions. So each of the panelists will engage in a 3-minute pitch about the experiences of young girls and women across the Eastern Caribbean, but place emphasis on the challenges that we still face. And so I will like to invite Diarra to begin the discussions this morning.
Protocol being established. Good morning, everyone. It is an honor to be able to present on this panel for the discussion on this International Day of the Girl. I recognize the struggles and the strength of girls across the world. While progress has been made, we must address the challenges that continue to hold girls back from living in a world where they feel safe, respected, and empowered. One of the most pressing issues girls face is sexual assault. Too many girls experience violence and exploitation that leaves deep physical and emotional scars. Society must do more to protect girls, offering them not just safe spaces, but justice. We must create environments where they can voice their experiences without fear of shame, where they can find support and healing. Even though this is not normalized, I must inform you that female problems are male problems, and we have to help males relearn what things are considered as sexual harassment and sexual assault in the school plan. By the end of the year, the Barbados National Students Council hopes to host an event for young males and male faculty themed Breaking the Silence, Men and Mental Health, which focused on encouraging emotional expression, and a session called Lead Him, encouraging young men to not just be men, but gentlemen. And let's be real, women and girls constantly find themselves being sexualized. The first thing some people assume when a girl goes missing nowadays is, oh, she by a man. They don't ask if she's all right, if she's safe, or if something might have happened to her. Instead, it's always about something negative, never about the possibility that she's in trouble or needs help. We must acknowledge the anger many girls feel. Too often, when girls express anger, they are met with criticism or dismissal, and our anger is valid. It's a response to injustice, to being silenced, and to inequality. We need to allow girls to feel like they have the right to freely express their emotions in ways that empower them, and not ways that restrain them. Beyond these challenges, girls face severe barriers to education and limited access to proper health care. For instance, educators and sometimes family members insist that girls should attend school even when they are in pain during their menstrual cycle, expecting them to perform at their best regardless of how they feel. There is a widespread belief that period cramps are normal, but if chronic pain isn't normal, why should period cramps be normal? This reflects a systemic gender bias that tries to minimize the real challenges girls face, dictating their potential instead of supporting it. However, with determination, advocacy, and collective action, we can break these barriers. We can create a world where girls rise above these limitations and claim their rightful place as females, leaders, innovators, and change makers. Girls are not just the future, they are the present, and it is our duty to ensure they grow in a world that recognizes their power and, above all, their potential. Thank you.
Thank you. That was indeed well said. So we'll now hear from Adia and then Kenisha.
Good morning. Good morning. Right. I am the key to unlocking untapped potential, a force that shapes nations and dreams. Yes, I am often silenced by storms not of my making. When nurtured, I rise stronger, and with me, the world grows brighter. Who am I? And today, on International Day of the Girl, we're here to have an honest, blunt, but progressive conversation about the realities facing girls in the Eastern Caribbean. Let me be clear, there is a lot to celebrate. Girls in our region are growing up in a culture rich with pride, creativity, and resilience. They are excelling in education, taking on leadership roles, and stepping into once off-limits spaces. From the arts to technology, they are proving their talent and ambition, and we see more girls dreaming big thanks to increasing access to education and community support. This is a big win. Breaking down the traditional stereotypes of what a woman or a girl was perceived to be is a step in the right direction. Over the past years, we have strengthened community support that offers a solid foundation for growth. With the creation of avenues in music and sports to academics and entrepreneurship, girls shining across the region, proving that the sky is not the limit. But should we have to work twice as hard trying to prove our worth to gain access to half of the opportunities that boys and men are afforded? The region's focus on education and community-driven initiatives have opened doors to new possibilities for girls. Across the islands, there's an increased awareness of gender equality, and more young women are stepping into leadership roles in both traditional sectors like education and emerging fields like technology and the creative industries. This sense of empowerment is growing stronger every day as girls are encouraged to dream big and take control of their futures. The Caribbean has always been about resilience, and the girls of the region are no different. They're bold, ambitious, and ready to make their mark. But of course, there are still challenges that cast a shadow over this bright future. While we celebrate progress, we cannot ignore the obstacles many girls still face. Access to quality education, particularly in rural areas, remain a hurdle, with many girls lacking the resources and support they need to reach their full potential. Societal norms sometimes limit their aspirations, with traditional gender roles shaping expectations about their futures. For some, the harsh reality of early pregnancy, violence, and limited economic opportunities can drastically alter the course of their lives. Further, gender-based violence and discrimination, while being increasingly addressed, are still persistent issues. The conversations are happening, but the change often moves too slowly, leaving too many girls vulnerable in their communities. In many cases, these challenges intersect with economic pressures as poverty remains a significant barrier, preventing access to education and limiting the ability to break free from traditional expectations. But while we're here to discuss the difficulties, we are also here to be a part of the solution. The future is bright, and the girls of the Caribbean are ready to embrace it with open arms. The questions we need to answer today are: how do we work together hand in hand to remove these barriers? How do we ensure that every girl can thrive and achieve her fullest potential, no matter where she's from or what obstacle she faces? Thank you.
Ms. Karen B. Sullivan, Deputy Chief of Mission to the U.S. Mission to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. Ms. Roseanne Richards, Director of the Child Care Board. Mr. Peter Bolt, UNICEF Representative for the Eastern Caribbean. Ms. Tawny Broadber, Representative of the UN Women Multi-Country Office Caribbean. Ms. Faith Marshall-Harris, Chair, Barbados National Committee on the Rights of the Child. Panelist, Moderator, members of the media, specially invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for being here. So, earlier this year, a very wise woman advised me to take up space. She did not mean this in a negative way, nor was she trying to make me someone that I am not. She knew that I was worthy of an opportunity, and deep down I knew I had something to say. People deserve to hear my voice, just as I deserve to hear hers. The many who came before me, the many who sit next to me, and the many who will come after. Today, I have made a choice to take up space and use my voice to advocate on my behalf and other young women and girls. It is through words of encouragement and opportunities given that young women are able to advocate for each other. By doing this, we continue to build momentum for women and girls everywhere in an effort to empower and support them. We allow young women and girls to dream and envision their future, knowing that it can be a reality. The challenges of our past remain an important conversation, but our progress and our advancement are the reasons why we push forward for gender equality. Despite being small island developing states, our women and young girls deserve to dream, and they deserve to envision safe, equitable, inclusive, and prosperous futures. As signatories to the Beijing Platform for Action and the Sustainable Development Goals, we have recognized a pathway to achieving gender equality, and we are steadily advancing to meet these priority areas. I look around and I see courageous Caribbean women and girls who have taken up space as transformational leaders, as advocates for climate action, in sports, girls in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, as entrepreneurs, as others who are dismantling barriers in order to achieve their dreams. Women and young girls are redefining themselves and charting their own destiny. In Barbados specifically, women are doctors and project scientists who have made the first vehicle powered by renewable natural gas. They're pioneering technology. There are prime ministers, presidents, ministers, chief executive officers, mothers, and so much more. There are entrepreneurs and small business owners who create and sell some of the best products and services. These young women and girls have seized opportunities and they dared to dream. Women and young girls need the support of governments, civil society organizations, United Nations agencies, their parents, peers, families, and communities in order to truly benefit. They need opportunities and stronger legislation and policies, and more importantly, spaces, which allow them to self-actualize and identify while protecting them from the injustices they continue to face. There is purpose in every young woman and girl child here today, but we need to align ourselves as societies that allow them to show it. We need to hear from them as they tell us their vision for their future.
Thank you all so much for your contributions. That was a mouthful, wasn't it? Yeah. All right, so you guys touched on a lot of different issues: mental health, gender equality, discrimination, violence. And so we are now into the segment where we're going to dissect it. And we're going to flesh out all the problems here. And like you said, Adia, we are here to raise awareness about it, but we're also here to be part of the solution. Just a disclaimer, there will be a question and answer segment at the end. So if you have any questions that you would like to pose to any of the panelists, please write it down, keep it in mind, and you will have an opportunity to ask your questions at the end. So I think it's only right that we start off discussing mental health, seeing as yesterday was World Mental Health Day. We already established that women have more opportunities than we probably would have had some 30, 40 years ago. However, mental health is something that affects everyone across all borders. And so, and this question is open to any of you, what are some of the prevalent mental health concerns affecting young women and girls? And how can the society as a whole provide support for young women in particular who might be struggling with mental health?
We can't talk about girls and mental health without first addressing what happens at home. What I mean by that is we cannot neglect the fact that in today's society, a girl still has or is perceived to have the responsibility of being a caregiver to siblings, to herself. And this poses a big issue because now we have children doing the work of parents. And that is not an easy load. It's not their role, it's not what they're supposed to be doing, you know? And so we have to juggle taking care of siblings, cleaning the house, doing these chores, while we have school, we have extracurriculars, we have all these things that we're trying to make ourselves into something, and then we get home and it's like we're confined to what home expects us to be. So I think that's really a big issue in mental health where girls are concerned. And how we can address this is we need mental health literacy. Like, we need to break down the barriers. We need to let people know what's going on. And actually, it's not that they don't know what's going on, but they don't understand how we feel and the intricacies that come into having that sort of responsibility put on you at home. And so I really think that's one of the biggest issues in mental health for girls.
Thank you for that, Adia. And I agree. So there's a much needed conversation that needs to be had around mental health, but more specifically the stigma. People don't like to hear that mental health is a major problem. I find that in the Caribbean, we kind of stigmatize mental health and we use labels. We pin labels on persons. Oh, that person is crazy, that person is mad. No. We need to stop. We need to stop with the labels, and we need to stop stigmatizing the institutions that were placed here for young women and girls and everyone. Specifically, I agree with Adia because young girls are often caregivers. They're often caretakers, not only for their siblings, but often for their parents who might be older than them. And young women and girls suffer with anxiety and depression. And also, although there might not be defined as mental health issues, they also have PCOS and premenstrual dysphoric disorders and endometriosis, which not only affect their physical, but their mental as well. And people don't understand that. So we're continuing to battle the stigma around mental health, and we need to stop because we are met with traditional and cultural attitudes about this.
Thank you so much for that. So this actually segues into my next question, which would be directed to you, Diara. Seeing as you are a current student, I know you mentioned in your presentation about the fact that girls are still expected to show up to school and perform at their best even when they're on their menstrual cycle. And so my question to you is, what are some possible solutions or suggestions that teachers and principals can take into consideration when dealing with girls and women at school during their cycles?
I would start off by saying, hear us out. Like, for example, when we as girls come and say, well, we have cramps, so we can't do something, don't say we should be accustomed to it. Because even at 16 years old, I am not accustomed to striking pain in my belly as I walk. And kind of just try to understand. I'm not saying that every time we have our menstrual, we should be at home, because then we're missing out on education. But meet us halfway where we could feel comfortable at school with our menstrual and still be able to learn.
I agree. Another suggestion too as well, back home at my secondary school, we had something which was called a sick bay, which was a room at the principal's office with a couple beds, access to sanitary napkins, that sort of stuff, medication. So if it's a case where you're at school and you're really unable to make it through the class or so, you seek permission from your teacher, from the principal, and they allow you to go to the sick bay for a while, get medication, take a nap until you feel good again to go. So I think that that is something that if it can be accommodated at schools, then it can be implemented. All right, so another issue that was raised throughout the presentations was women and access to equal opportunities. We know that we've come a long way in bridging the wage disparity between men and women doing the same work but getting lesser pay. However, it's still an issue. There is still that bit of disparity. And so my question is, what can be done to ensure that women have equal access? And when we say equal, we mean equal, not almost equal, to equal access to benefits and treatment in the workplace as well as in community or in other organizations. And this is open to any of the panelists.
So in Saint Vincent and the Grenadines, education is a big thing. Education is a big thing for us. We're big on education reform. However, a couple weeks ago, actually, someone sent me a flyer for a short course because I wanted to start doing some short courses in like clothing and textile and so on and so on. And just to try to do something handy. And I looked on the flyer. Obviously, there was an age range, but then it was for men. And I think the silence in the room speaks loudly because it was for men. And I don't think we can be offering these sorts of short courses and you say you're big on education reform, and you want to give equal access to opportunities to everyone, but then I can't go and do a short course on plumbing or carpentry. That's a big problem for me. So I think it goes back to the whole traditional stereotype thing. Like, I can fix a sink, like I can change a light bulb. Like, I can want to go and do electrical work. I can want to go and learn plumbing. It's not just about sewing up if my button falls off. Do you get what I'm saying? I looked on the flyer and I saw for men. And it was just, I was really taken back by it. And so everything with girls really begins with the stigma and the stereotypes, the traditional stereotypes that we have. So if we try to break that down, if we have a more general, equal approach to access to educational opportunities, not just scholarships, because this was a short course that my college, the Saint Vincent and the Grenadines Community College, offers, then I think we could be taking a step in the right direction.
But just to follow up on that, wouldn't you say that the initiative, though, is still commendable? Because earlier we spoke about trying to break the traditional, cooking, cleaning, home maintenance is for women, while the hard labor is for men. So wouldn't you say that to a certain extent, this initiative to have men, to be offering a short course for men in something like clothing and textiles, wouldn't you say that is probably a step in the right direction towards breaking the stigma and encouraging a bit more inclusivity in the shared skill set?
We can't mix up equality with equity. Yes, we can't mix up equality with equity. And while I think it is inclusive, you're still not representing a marginalized community, which are girls. So I think it is a step in the right direction, just maybe not for us. And we're here to talk about us, right? And so I don't really think it serves us. Generally, holistically, it is a step in the right direction. But for us particularly, it's not a step backward, but we're just, here, Yeah, we're at the same place. There's no progress.
All right, thank you. I think that was adequately answered. So I think, another question in relation to violence against women. One of the things that you would have mentioned was certain actions that men and boys will do that they don't exactly see as sexual harassment. And I was actually in the washroom with you guys earlier, and you and your friends were discussing the fact that when you go to Bridgetown, you have people catcalling you and all that sort of things, which does make you feel uncomfortable, but they may not equate it to sexual harassment or sexualizing you as an individual. And so I think that men also have a part to play in this entire discussion. And so, yes, it's International Day of the Women, and we have a right to be heard, but they have a right to listen as well. So how can we involve young men in this conversation on violence against women? What role can men play in, you know?
Firstly, I would like to say that we as not female and male, but we as humans need to understand that there's a difference between a compliment and you catcalling me. Because why am I walking down the road and I hear, "Psst, sweet girl"? Like, you could say, "Hi, how are you doing?" "Psst, sweet girl" runs my blood. Another thing I would say is, I would say males, well, young males, see what older persons are doing. So it's an ongoing cycle that sadly hasn't been broken. That's why I said for the Barbados National Students Council, we will be working on a workshop where males would be taught how to be gentlemen, because you could be a man, but are you the right man?
I think that is also a very commendable initiative by the association. Kenisha?
Thank you. I think we need a bit more awareness and education on sexual harassment in schools. Boys need to learn what is okay and what is not. If their peers or persons in the community are sexually harassing young women and girls, they might follow suit because they don't know that it is not the right thing to do. So we need to incorporate health and family life education, a more comprehensive way of letting boys and men know that this is not right. I think shame must even change sides. I feel as a young person, if I get catcalled or sexually harassed, I'm ashamed. Why should I be ashamed? I feel like I'm not the person who is invading my privacy right now. I don't like being told to smile. You're trying to fit me into a mold. I'm walking down the road, I'm thinking 500 different things. I have errands to run. Smile, sweet girl, it's not what you should be telling me. I'm focused on something else. So we need to differentiate between a compliment and sexual harassment.
I agree. And what suggestions do you have on raising awareness to persons who may not exactly be within the actual formal education system? So the guys on the block, the guys down the road, who may not be enrolled in school to participate in a health and family life education class. How can we address them?
For me, I think women and young girls are often scared to have a rebuttal with the person who is catcalling them because they're in fear sometimes. But I think if we continue to speak out, I don't like that. Wrong person. Sorry. Are you not ashamed of yourself? Don't tell me anything. I think we need to do more of that because it allows a man to know this is not right. While he may think it's a compliment, I feel invaded. I feel disgusted that you would purse your mouth to tell me something like that. So I think we need to speak up and speak out for ourselves a bit more. I think that we could use the media as well, because if we have some advertisements or programs running that allow men to know that sexual harassment isn't right, that they would be like, okay, well, I didn't even know that. I thought women liked that. I thought girls could appreciate me calling them sweet girl. No, we need to advertise and we need to use our ministries and say, come out into the community, educate these men where they might be. We need to meet them where they are. If they're on the roads, we need to come out and we need to say, well, let's take a look into sexual harassment. Let's take a look into sexual abuse.
Go ahead.
I think we take it for granted that we think everyone thinks the same way. Meaning, I can't talk to the common man on a block like the way I would talk to a politician in a meeting addressing this issue. So to my boys in here, and I'm not going to single out anybody, but when you're liming around your friends, what is something, and we want to hear from you because we genuinely think that, yes, speaking up is okay, It's good, but I mean, nobody listens. And what can we do about that? So I think it's important to be able to mix and mingle, be relatable. I have a belief that you can't want to be a part of a solution or a part of change if you don't go and meet the needs of the community. You understand? And I just think it's a big problem when we have forums like these and they're good. People are listening to us. It's going to take us in a step in the right direction. But then what about the young men who don't really tune into these things? What about the men who are on the block at 8 o'clock at night, not doing their homework? You understand? So I just feel like we need a way to reach them. I don't think the social media is going to work. I don't think forums like these are going to reach that group of people. We need to find a way to meet them where they are. And I think we have a problem with that because we tend to separate ourselves. So we stay in our office or we're part of an organization that's doing such good work, but then we don't go and talk to the people who are a part of the problem. So I'm not really sure. I don't have a solution for you, but I'm saying we need to go to the roots of the cause. We need to go to them. Not everybody wants to sit down and listen to a 15-minute panel discussion or a 40-minute panel discussion on violence against women or what is sexual harassment from what is not, what is a compliment from what is not. You know, I think we need to speak in their language. We need to find a way to do that.
So something along the lines of community block walks, but not from persons with their fancy degrees and so people in their community who they know and who they can believe or can more relate to on their level. Right. Good. And to the young men inside here, you might probably be thinking, well, when young girls walking down the road, I don't be calling anybody sweet girl and that sort of things. But sometimes simple things as texting, hey, what are you wearing? What do you have on tonight? These things also amount to unwanted sexual harassment that we don't feel comfortable with that. Every minute is what you're doing. Can I come over? Can you meet me here? Some of that behavior is also a bit unwanted and can also amount to harassment.
And then you might not do it, but your friends do it. That's a big problem. Because it's like you're taking 10 steps forward because you don't do it and you think you're a part of the solution, but then your best friend is on the whole other spectrum of it.
And you're standing right there, you're not telling him anything, you're not saying, well, you know, she probably looks a little uncomfortable.
You gotta pull them up.
You know,
you gotta pull them up.
It's true. So those of you who are here and who are being a part of this discussion, you might have friends who may not be interested in something like this, but you can help us get the word out. And so we're winding down. My other question concerns, it's also about violence against women. However, it is not concerning domestic violence or sexual violence. It concerns women as victims of actual crimes. So for instance, women who may be living in high crime communities and you always have to be hyper vigilant, you're scared to walk home at night because men have this perception that, okay, a woman might be an easy target for, let's say, a robbery or something like that. How do we, again, provide a safe environment, or how do we help women feel safer in these environments?
Law enforcement. I don't wanna say it too loud because I feel like there might be a police officer or something in this room, but you need to hear me. Law enforcement. The Constitution is there. The laws are there. And we just don't enforce them. And while in some countries our laws may not be suited to include these specific issues that women may have, they're there. And I just feel like if law enforcement entities do a better job, then it would reduce the fear that I have walking out to go to the shop at 9 o'clock at night to buy fried chicken. You know, I think I should be able to leave my house at 9 o'clock, maybe with a friend, walk up the road, just like a 2-minute walk, and not feel like a man is going to jump out of the bush because, hey, you know, that girl in the nice tight orange pants she been wearing yesterday, she lived down the road, and every day or every Tuesday at 9 o'clock, she just go up the road for fried chicken. I don't want to have to feel that way. And I think if we have a good presence of law enforcement in the community, neighborhood watches, patrols, you know, I just think that that would be a big help to the fear that we feel.
Thank you so much. So to wrap up this segment, I'm going to ask each of you in 30 seconds, briefly summarize for us what is your vision for the future of young girls and young women. We can start from this end, come up. So Kenisha, you can begin.
I don't think 30 seconds is enough, but my vision for the future is that we are all equal and free to identify who we want to be. I don't want there to be any violence against women, whether that is sexual harassment or sexual abuse. I want women to be free to actually live their lives and make it whatever they want. My vision for my future might be different to the young women and the young girls in the crowd, but I want us to live sustainable, prosperous, inclusive, and safe futures. I want governments to acknowledge the legislation that they have put in place or furthermore amend it to make sure that women and girls are covered. I want that. Sorry.
I think that's 30 minutes. Thank you so much. Leah?
It may sound cliche, but a couple years down the road, I don't want there to be a need to have these forums. Meaning, we shouldn't have to fight so hard to address these issues. It's not like people don't know. We know. They know. Everybody knows. And so I just feel like a future for girls, for me, looks like me not having to fight too hard to live, you know, live safely, be able to walk out of my house, be able to open my mouth if I have something smart to say. You know, I don't think we should fight so hard to be a part of the solution. I think now we're doing the work now, and a couple years down the line, we shouldn't have to readdress this again. So we put sustainable solutions, sustainable in bold, underline, italize, sustainable solutions over a couple of years that can work for us. That's how I feel.
And finally?
A couple years from now, I see a world where girls receive the same respect that we are expected to give to others. I also see a place where they understand certain issues we face aren't issues that can be normalized, and they are okay with us expressing our emotions without, this little girl real miserable, or this little girl always talking. I expect to see a place that I can be a carpenter and I can go and fix a light. I also expect to see a place where I can walk down the road peacefully, or my mother not scared that if I go somewhere by myself, I get snatched up.
Thank you all for sharing your vision for the future. I think we've had some very robust and thorough discussions here this morning, and I know that we would have fleshed out some solutions or partial solutions, and we trust that, like you all expressed, a few years down the line, we won't have to be doing this again to come up with new solutions about for the problems that young women and young ladies face. And so We've come to the end of this discussion. We now open the floor for any questions from the audience, and the questions can be addressed to any of the panelists or any of the UN representatives who may wish to offer a different perspective. Okay, sure. Any of the young men in here? Sorry, just one moment. Can you use the mic, please, so everyone can hear?
What you said just now, nobody in the room should be laughing at. And it made me think, all right, I'm doing sign language classes, and they finish about 7 in the evening. The ladies in the class wait for me to go to my car because they're nervous about going to their car for fear of something, because it's not very well lit out there. As far as I'm concerned, the women shouldn't have to wait for me. The women shouldn't have to be nervous about going to their car. It's not that they can't see the car or anything, but they're just afraid that something's going to happen. And that's not, that it didn't seem like that when I was a child, and I don't like it that it's that way now. And when you made your comment about your mother not being worried about you, I don't think anybody in the room should have been laughing. And that's just how I feel. That is what I want to see it, but I don't think it's going to be a couple of years. It's going to be taken about 5 or 10 years. But that's how I feel.
Thank you for that. So just in keeping with your comments earlier, is any young man in the room interested in just briefly sharing something that would have stuck with you from today's discussion? What is your main takeaway, or what is one thing you think that you can do differently?
Hi, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Yes, still morning. So one of the main things that I guess we can all take away from this is that in order for our girls and women to feel safe and to feel as though they can contribute to these meaningful discussions and fully participate, is that as men, we have a lot of work to do ourselves. So I have 3 brothers, right? I have 3 brothers, and I had to count just now. So the main thing that I try to instill in them is the concept of, 1, consent, 2, how important it is to have healthy relationships with women and girls in their class. You know, there are so many times where, especially in primary school, there will be a boy, you know, constantly nagging a girl or hitting a girl or just being very annoying. And the first thing you'll hear is, oh, he like you. He took a liking to you. And no, this is unacceptable. And often we hear the saying, boys will be boys. And I like to correct that all the time and say boys will be held accountable for their actions. So actually, I wanted to address one of the points that were made. I had to step out really quickly. But one of the points that were made to answer the question of how can we help our girls to feel safe? Yes, law enforcement is one of, ideally, law enforcement will do their jobs. But the unfortunate reality is that some of our law enforcement personnel continue to perpetuate these behaviors. And so I firmly believe that it starts at the root. If you have younger siblings, if you have boys, siblings, brothers, whatever the case may be, if you have a best friend or a friend who is a young man or whatever the case may be, please encourage them to hold their to their hearts and to keep in mind those same principles that you firmly believe in. And every single one of you who is sitting on the panel, you have something very important to share. And I also have 2 sisters. And I really hope that my sisters continue to go in this path, and that when it is time for them to eventually sit up here, they will not have to say something along the lines of, we're still facing these issues. We've been talking about this for the longest time and nothing is being done. So I do want to commend every single one of you who gave your contributions, and I want to encourage every one of you in here, whether you be a girl, whether you be a boy, whether you identify as something else, please, please, please do your part to ensure that we no longer have these very alarming and very heartbreaking statistics. Please understand the importance of consent. Please understand the importance of knowing that nobody really and truly belongs to you, and that it is not your decision to make for somebody else's body. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you so much for that.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. So I want to touch base on what Javier said just now, and then to ask a question as well. Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things I would like to say is being a parent, and from what I heard you guys talk about, the issue comes with being at home, what the children are exposed to. With my toddler, and you know, sometimes growing up with a boy, you're told raising a boy is completely different to how you raise a girl. And with that stigma, we don't instill in the boys certain ways that they should be with girls. So as Javier was saying just now, consent is a big thing. So what programs do you think you can put in place for parents to encourage them to come to seminars, a course or anything like that can help them teach them how to be with boys?
Thank you for that. I personally feel like you don't necessarily need to even come into a forum. There should be parenting classes. There should be classes from the time maybe you're pregnant that you learn things, because you are their first educators. You are the people who tell them about consent and boundaries and allowing them to feel their emotions, because you guys are their home, their first home. So I think we need to advocate that hospitals or birthing centers have parenting classes. Yeah, public service as well. I think that you guys should have the first ability or the first access to having these things so that you can educate your children going forward.
I think you covered it. Is it? Go ahead.
Sorry, I think Director wanted to say something. Yeah.
Yeah, he said you could go ahead.
No.
Would you prefer to just go through the other side?
Sure. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I just want to echo the sentiments. Incredible presentation here today. I wanted to touch on the point on how one of those solutions that we can bring, and I think it boils down to taking ownership and accountability. I share your views that quite often we have seminars like this, and you know, the question is, what next, right? And I think the critical point is for young men like myself, that you've already mentioned, to take leadership on this. Indeed, gender-based violence is not an issue that we should then tell girls that they have to solve. It's a whole of society approach that's required. And so I think to the young men in the room, the point of accountability is that when you see another young man doing something that he's not supposed to do, your role is to step up and say something. And I think the more that we allow this, the more that we cause a degradation in our society. And so what I call for in this gender-based violence advocacy space is for more young men to be involved. And in fact, I think even in these conversations, that more young men need to be there to listen, but also to share their sentiments about what some of the solutions are. I think one other point, and I don't want it to be hidden, what Adia mentioned earlier about law enforcement. In fact, one of the most complaints that we get here is that a young lady goes to law enforcement and they say, I have been assaulted, and it's either trivialized or entirely dismissed. There's no follow-up. And it is for them to have to come on social media to relive that traumatic experience for everyone to see, for anything to be done. And so when we talk about law enforcement, let's talk about training, let's talk about accountability, let's talk about the abuse that's also enacted, unfortunately, by some of these law enforcement agencies, and again come back to that point of accountability. And so I think what I'm calling for here is a whole of society approach. Let's not leave here and say it's only for the women on stage to deal with this, but what critical part can we all play as young men, young women, to move forward this issue? So that's what I wanted to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I just wanted to...
Yes, hello, boys, girls, and everyone. I just want to say very, very quickly, the last speaker actually made one of the points I was going to make about law enforcement, so I won't revisit that because that's a very important point. But I want to tell you that I thought you did a great job on the panel to identify a lot of the negatives that our girls and young women face. And I hope that we can take away a lot of these and see if we can work on them, not for the girls to work on, for the, as you said, the whole society to be looking at. But I just want to make one other point. Apart from being on the Barbados National Committee, I also sit on the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child, where we review globally all countries. We look at what is happening with children throughout the world, and girls as well as boys. We look at it impartially. And what I wanted to say is that personally, I've now reviewed 60 countries. I've been there 5 years. Actually, the Caribbean, in terms of girls, we're doing rather well. And I want us to take that away as well, that our future is bright because we are building on a sound foundation. We have made tremendous strides as girls and women in the Caribbean. We are actually, if you're looking at a global scale, some of the matters raised in that committee is something that are foreign to us. So I want us to take that forward. Academically, our girls are doing extremely well. The problem is sometimes the opportunity to use what they've learned is not always there. That's what we've got to work on. But again, in terms of equal opportunity to work and equal pay, again, globally, we're doing also quite well. So I just want us to take away that sense of positivity that we've got actually a great future ahead.
Right, Joy Angel, JIS. I'm just asking you, you said that the equal opportunity, the equal pay seems to be the bugbear. So what can we do to go forward with that?
Well, let me say that from the point of view of the Caribbean region, in terms of government, the equal pay is not an issue. It is in the private sector where there's not always equal pay. And I think somehow that governments need to work on that in terms of creating. And in fact, at our universal periodic review that we just did, that was one of the issues that were raised, and it's really in the private sector that we need to work on the equal pay. But actually, management, I think as Peter both said, when we look at managers across the Caribbean, both in the public sector and the private sector, the majority are women. So, in fact, the women themselves, and I'm sorry I have to put it on women, as they rise in the ladder, they've got to fight that battle to make sure that those coming up beneath them are getting all the benefits that they have already got. That actually, I'm sorry to raise that bugbear, but that is one of our chief problems in the Caribbean, that the women who have succeeded are not working hard enough for the rights of those junior to them. And I'm sorry to raise that unfortunate point, but we also have a job towards, as women, we have a job for our girls. Thank you.
That is exactly what I wanted you to say.
All right, so we'll have one more question, and then we'll wrap up. Oh, okay. So two more.
Yeah. All right. Good morning. I wanted to share like a similar experience I had a couple of weeks ago, actually, and I didn't even realize it. So our student advisor for the Barbados National Student Council, he called me and he was like, Jonicia, you remember they had a group of men standing at the side of the bank? I was like, no, I can't remember any group of men standing. And he was like, I was in town today, and one of them came up to me and he remembered my face. And he was like, I know you. And the girl that was wearing the glasses, and she had on a blue pants and a white shirt, and she had on some pumps. I know her too. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he was like, I seen her and I've been looking at her for the longest while. I was like, huh? Like, I just went in town for a mentorship program and I didn't know that people was looking at me, remembering my outfits. And when my mom overheard the conversation, and she was like, I don't want you going in town no more. Because I don't know if you just in the corner looking at me, seeing me in my uniform or something. And it's scary to know that this is how people see us, and yeah. And my question would be, how can we ensure that girls living in conflict zones or affected areas by natural disasters can receive protection and support, especially when it comes to women's violence against women?
Thank you for your question. Would any of the panelists or any of the UN representatives wish to shed some light on it?
I feel it might be a little bit of pressure to ask the panelists that particular question, even though, as everybody has stated, each and every one of you, you are so impressive. Congratulations. The Caribbean is in good hands, yeah? To your question about women in conflict zones, this is the power of the Convention on the Rights of the Child, as well as 1325. And I don't know how many of you have heard of Security Council 1325. It's a resolution specifically about the protection of women and girls in the cases of crises. And I wanted to start there as I answered a few of the questions that came up, and just once again thanked all of you. First of all, to the young boys in the room and the young men in the room, thank you for being here. It's a lot of pressure when someone says, come and speak, especially when we've just outlined all of the challenges that you, the 3, 4, 5 of you in the room now have to go and talk to your friends about. So we really acknowledge that you're here and your presence is enough. There are different ways in which we act. Having a forum here is fantastic. But you're also correct, Adina, right? Adia. That you need to also go into communities. So who goes into the communities? When do you go into the communities? And what can you take into the communities from the global level, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, what's happening in the Security Council? Guyana sits on the Security Council. Saint Vincent and the Grenadines sat on it before. Do you know where your country is globally in terms of representation? How can you make sure you're at those tables so that if you are the right person to go into the community, you can bring that knowledge into your communities? Now, I'm a mother of 2 boys. One is 6 and one is 4. And I wish I had the consistent parenting lessons that Parados actually offers. But also, I will pay. My husband and I spoke about it. I'm following people on Instagram and I'm trying to pay for parenting classes because people act like it's natural that you automatically know how to parent children in the 21st century. You don't. We're all learning as we go ahead. And so please be kind to your parents as well, because none of your parents grew up with this, really. And the kind of access that you have to information is mind-boggling. So do your best, and I take that poem that was given to us, that spoken word, truly. We also have to hold ourselves accountable, because I notice that many of us adults get very offended when children ask us why. We need to be okay with why and explain what it is we're thinking. And sometimes we may not be able to explain it to you in the moment, but still give us a little bit of grace, because we're learning with you. With regards to the accountability and equal pay and equal ownership, I do agree with you that there are a lot of women in power. I also think that a lot of those women in power made a lot of space, at least for women like me, women like Farhana, women like Sharon Carter Burke, and many others in this room. We can make space, but that's not enough. And I think only asking women to create space is not enough. Because when we have children, when we are experiencing the cramps, who is going to do the work and take care of everybody else? Are we acknowledging the work of taking care of a home in the same way that we acknowledge the work that is done outside of the home? So the equal pay for equal work has to also come with the recognition that child care and care work needs a specific kind of value. And you can't just assume that it is going to be done easily without it taking time away from something else. So the Barbados government has done incredible work. One of the first governments to actually subsidize childcare. How can that be expanded? These are the kinds of conversations that need to be had, because it can't only be an individual making systemic change. So we're all responsible for the different solutions. My last thing to all of you, speak up and take up space. I believe truly in that, because sometimes when you see a child that is 2 to 6, they want to be in everything. You're trying to hold them back from speaking too much. But then something happens to you in school. I don't know if our schools are encouraging you to speak as much, into teenage-dom, where you feel like your voice is not as important. This mic was really for you all to come and speak. And we are here, not only now, but afterwards, for you to come and ask us anything you want. There are internships at our organizations. Kanisha was an intern with UN Women. So find out how you can claim that space and feel comfortable, and happy birthday. So that you can really, next time no one has to tell you to come and sit in front and stand in front of the mic, because you deserve to be here, each and every one of you. All right, so thank you. We have a lot to do still, but we have come a long, long way. All right, have a wonderful day, colleagues.
Hi, everybody. As you heard from the lovely Tawny Broadber, earlier in my what was supposed to be 3-minute pitch, I spoke about a very wise woman allowing me to take up space and providing opportunity, and this was her. So I just have to credit her and say thank you again.
All right. So thank you all so much for your participation and your involvement here today. I will now turn you back over to Farhana. Okay, but this will have to be really quick. We only have time for one question. So you could go ahead.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Well, this isn't really a question, but this is more of a statement. Regarding to the question that you asked about how we can encourage young men to realize that some of the things that they're doing are wrong, I would say that we are no longer to the point that we should only be educating, but we should be enforcing in young men from the very beginning, from the time that they are born, in our households, because you cannot really educate a 2-year-old about sexual assault or harassment, but you can enforce in them that is not the right thing to do. Yeah.
Thank you for that. All right, and this brings me to the end. I will now turn you back over to Farhana.
Thank you to our panelists and our moderator. I hope you all enjoyed that discussion. and we'll continue the conversation. So before I invite Miss Destiny Bruce onto the stage to grace us with some lovely words, I'm going to ask our panelists and our moderator that you can take your seats, and we can continue to talk to them once we leave the room, right? All right. Okay. Now, to close off our session today, we have Miss Destiny Bruce, as I mentioned, from the Springer Memorial Secondary School, and she's going to be singing for us. And Destiny, I think we can sing along with you, right, if we know the song? Of course. Okay, thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Destiny Bruce. That's Destiny with 2 E's and not a Y. Yes. So today I will be singing Rise Up. I'll be singing it a cappella. So if y'all know it, y'all can sing along with me. You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find the fighter. But I see it in you, so we're gonna walk it out and move mountains. We gonna walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise up, I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. When the silence isn't quiet and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll take the world to its feet and move mountains. Bring it to its feet and move mountains. And I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. All we need is hope. And for that we have each other. And for that we have each other. Yeah. We will rise, we will rise, we'll rise. Oh, we'll rise. And I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up in spite of the ache. I will rise 1,000 times again, and we'll rise up high like the waves. We'll rise up in spite of the ache. We'll rise up, and we'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. you.
Thank you, Destiny. To close off today's event, I have a few words of appreciation. A special thank you to Tony Broadburr, Peter Bolt, Karen Sullivan, and Roseanne Richards for their inspirational words to open today's event. To Emia Jenis for gracing us with her moving spoken word piece. To our panelists, Adia Daniel, Diara Best, Kanisha Chase, and moderator Karina Blash. We appreciate your voice and the powerful words, advice, and insight shared. To our audience, both online and in person, the colleagues and companies who have made today possible, and to our media representatives who will take today's message to those outside this room, we thank you. Now, the only thing keeping us from the much anticipated refreshments is a goodbye from me. So until next time, take care.